Good day, guys, and welcome to the very first Friday Not So Live. How is everyone today?
Well, we're doing well.
Very well.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. All right, just a quick little intro of our panel. We have got Jeff from Sydney Eco Tuning down below. We've also got Peter from Robert Street Automotive and also Sutherland Automotive to my diagonal, and also Mike from 313 Automotive to the side. And I am Costa from Smart Mechanical Sydney. Hey guys, how's everyone going?
Yeah, good, mate.
Good.
Doing well. Very well. Very unprecedented times, but we're pushing through.
That's the way to put it, yeah.
Here I can see a little bit like me. You've got the COVID hairstyle going on. No clean fade.
Don't even go there. I haven't had the, I was going to say the balls to get my daughter to cut it, but I know Mike did.
Yeah, I did.
Is that why you're wearing a hat, Mike?
This is a bit of COVID shadow going on here, so
yeah. It's probably the best time to be bald.
For all the haircuts, guys, can we keep the hair and we'll make Jeff a wig? We need to keep all of our cumulative hair pile, and we'll get Pat. Pat said he'll sort with. I'm sure there's a wig maker or a taxidermist out in Dubbo Way that will make a wig for Jeff.
So look, it's just good to know that on our first ever, Not So Friday Night Live, that I get bullied yet again. It's fantastic.
I've not bullied at all.
I think he's going for a workers' comp claim, boys.
Who's that?
Workplace bullying claim.
Is he? I mean, you can always speak to HR.
Who's HR?
Who's HR? info@thegaragenetwork.com.au.
Yeah. Definitely unprecedented times, isn't it, boys? Yeah,
it is, and I think today we'll be touching on that. So we're going to be having a few different topics, I reckon, that we've got together. One of which obviously is going to revolve around COVID. I mean, we are in the midst of it, and especially for us, anyways, in Sydney, things that we're not seeing, restrictions we haven't seen before. I'm sure the Melbourne guys could probably relate because they've sort of had to navigate through it earlier on in the year. But new stuff for us that we're, again, things are sort of not very clear, a lot of grey periods or grey areas that we're trying to work through. But yeah, so we have a bit of a discussion about that and some predictions that we're sort of seeing and trends we're seeing as well. That's sort of the first thing we're going to start on. And then I think after that, we'll touch on a bit about our suppliers. So how do we go around and picking the right supplier? How do we find a supplier that works for us? Now, I know we also had a bit of a chat about this before, and we'll have sort of different criteria as to what needs to be our supplier that we go for. We're not going to name names. We're not going to decide which supplier is the best because, again, that varies from area, location, and also what your business requires from your supplier. So we're not going to get into naming names and who's better than who, but more about what we look for in our suppliers. Okay, so that's what we're going to be covering today, I reckon. Now, I think we'll start off with a bit of a COVID talk. Sort of, what are we doing during COVID? Some of our sort of safety precautions. What are we seeing out there? If anyone wants to take a run on that first, feel free to put your hand up and go for it, mate.
Yeah, look, I'll weigh in on this. I suppose for us, what we're seeing across both our shops is a bit of a decline in work. But we've put a lot of safety measures together just to make sure that the customer feels comfortable coming to us in the event that they have to come to us. Obviously, we're working on a restricted schedule as well. We're sort of not really able to do any work that's not essential or not deemed to be essential repair work. So we're really just focusing on, mainly sort of real essential type stuff, but we do have measures in place. So we're completely contactless. We have noticed a bit of a decline in work. And when I say decline in work, just the phone just seems to have stopped ringing for a while. It's mainly a lot of regos that are coming through, and just I think a lot of people are actually taking this a bit seriously and sort of not leaving the house unless they really have to. So that's sort of what we've seen, a bit of a decline in that regard. I'm sure the boys, around Sydney have probably seen much of the same. But Mike, what have you seen? I mean, our shops are close by in terms of location. What have you seen with yours?
Yeah, it's certainly work's dropped off. It's I was going to say after you that this is certainly uncharted territory that we've been in. We're sailing through waters that you just don't know what's going to come out. It's worrying. It's stressful. It's certainly been quieter. And for those that are employers, it's really stressful. And it's not. I'm more concerned about how long this is going to last for. We are not qualifying for any sort of financial assistance. There's no for your employees. I think it's a really poignant time for them to be mindful of the stress levels that their boss might be under, because this is we don't know how long this is going to go for. If you look at university studies, they're talking till September. We're not qualifying for any job keepers. There's no job keepers there, even if we do qualify for them. What we do qualify for is 40% and 40% of wages, which is not much of your fixed costs. I think, Jeff, you rang me today and said you sound stressed. It is really, really quite stressful. Our workload has dropped off considerably. The phone is still ringing. We're getting a few mixed messages from different associations, which is really, really difficult. I think a lot of the members have probably seen that the AAA have been fantastic and very, very supportive. I reached out to Stuart Charity and Leslie on Saturday to get us some information straight away, as soon as they could, because the one thing, the most stressful thing that we all go through is we're all fearful of the unknown, right? We're not. I went into this a week ago thinking, yeah, this is okay. This will be like last year. We know what to expect. The number one thing that we all do know what to expect, which is the positive to come out of this, is that the other side of it is going to be work. Which is nice. It's the nice carrot at the end of the process. But unfortunately, we've got to carry everyone throughout that process. And yes, luckily for us, our phone is ringing. It's ringing off the hook for regos and for those sorts of inspections. And because we do tyres and stuff in-house, that's carrying us through. We're not, with those essential jobs are turning into other jobs, but there's a lot of education for customers to understand that the service is not really essential. We've changed after the advice that came out yesterday, which is we really shouldn't be doing services. They are not essential maintenance. I've gone through and rung all customers and gone, look, unless you're coming in for a rego, we'll do a rego on a service, or we'll do a rego on a service and check your brakes, or unless you think you've got a problem with your brakes, we're not doing those sorts of jobs. We're not doing a service unless it's associated with something else. So if the car's in there for another reason, we'll service it while we're doing the pink slip. But off the back of the models from Melbourne, and off the advice that we've been receiving, but mate, I think for staff need to be aware of the stresses their bosses might be going through, just trying to carry you through and carry the business through this process. It's really, really difficult. I think for us, it's really important to support each other throughout this process. I mean, Pete, you've got more staff than me. I mean, I'm in full control of what we're doing, and I'm waiting to hit the rock, right? Because I like my boating analogies, because I love my boats. Captain Cook must have been like this sailing up the inside passage if anyone's ever seen the Whitsunday Passage, how he sailed all the way to Cooktown without hitting a reef is beyond me. They obviously were much better at dealing with this sort of shit than we are. than I am, because it's just very, very stressful. And I don't think there's going to be the safety net we got last year. I just can't see. The government doesn't have the money, and I'm not, we are, today's a really, and for those that are listening to this as a podcast or watching this later on, you might go, what day is it? Brisbane just got approved the 2032 Olympics, which normally would be a massive celebration for the whole country. I mean, that's like us getting the 2000 Olympics pulled all of us out of recession, right? It pulled the whole of Sydney out. I remember getting the winner is Sydney, and it was just from there it ramped up, and it has never really stopped ever since. And I can, and we're midway through July. Three major cities in Sydney and now three major cities in Australia are locked down. Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide are all entering lockdown for 7 days. Regional New South Wales is about to go into lockdown. This Delta variant is taking hold of the country. Where does this end? Where is the end of this? Where is at what point do we see ourselves coming out of it? And today we had 43 cases in the community, and you go, and the Premier is talking about us not getting out of lockdown until that's at 0, and today is the highest number. I know there is a 5-day lag, and I know that there's all this other stuff that's going on, but that's what's most concerning to me, is there is no real end date, and it's a fear of the unknown. We don't go to horror movies to know when someone's going to jump out of the room, out of the bloody wardrobe and kill someone. And we don't, it's the fear of the unknown. That's what we go to get scared, or we go to, those sorts of things and it's just stressful. I can't sum it up any other way than, as a business owner, it's stressful. I can imagine how your staff must see that, and they can carry that, and my boys do, and they know that. And it's just a matter of, it's management. It's fiscal management from our perspective. It's business management, customer management, process management. Everyone's seen I've roped off half the car park, and we have a very visual changes. We've made some very visual and open changes, because I've been more concerned about public's perception of what we're doing and why are you allowed to be open, because there is a lot of jealousy out there. So I did a drive around through 5 Dock today, and a lot of other workshops. I've still got people in their office, I drove past a shop down the road, and there was a guy in the office paying his bill, which I wouldn't have, and that to me is not a visual change.
I mean, I'd like to hear Jeff's point of view. Jeff's B2B, so he's what I'd classify as a supplier. So you're dealing, Jeff, with so you're not really dealing to the public in that regard, but you're dealing to B2B clients. So clients like me, Mike, and Costa. Mate, what do you? I mean, you're not on the road, so
I'm only doing crucial visits. If somebody needs stock out, I'll go out and deliver it in a COVID safe manner. Today I saw 2 shops, literally opened the van door, threw the stock out, back in and gone. So you're losing that customer interaction. But what I will say is, the shops I am still currently dealing with, we're doing a blinding job of, the COVID safe, and certainly me as a contracting rep, I'm signing in and out everywhere I go. But I agree with what Mike's saying 100%. I spoke to Mike today. I spoke to a few people today just to, see how they're going. And people are worried. They may have a car park full of cars and, work booked in, but there's that element of worry of what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time. And that shows in, you can see it in the attitude. It's how I feel as well. I don't know where I'm going to be this time next week. Is the phone going to stop ringing? If so, then I stop earning money. But I've got a rich missus, but richish. But I'm sort of really, really lucky in that respect. But there's a lot of these smaller shops which maybe aren't in a position where they can change how they work as such. And I feel for them all. It's a difficult time.
Yeah, they're definitely very difficult. I mean, I think you touched on something, Mike. Customer perception as well is definitely important. And I felt that we've lost that. We've gone fully contactless, and I think we've lost that personal touch a little bit, where you're sort of explaining a job over the phone to the customer. They've paid their bill, the car's outside, the keys in the lockbox. You don't see them. You don't get the opportunity to run them through the job or speak to them, or you've lost that face-to-face sort of contact. So while contactless is great because you can get to do your job, park the car so you don't have to worry about it, you lose that element of personal touch too.
Can be a good. I think Peter Banning summed it up the other day, going, "How good is it to not have to go through it?" You obviously. I remember doing this years ago. You go through this. You go through everything. You go through 3 times, and you got to remember to invoice this. You got to remember to include. My dad saying to me, "You got to remember, we got to include that somehow in the charge, because we go through it with them when you book your car in. You go through it with them when they drop the car off, and you go through it with them when you pay the bill, and you realise that you've said the same thing every single time." And I think Pete said, "How good is it not having to go over it again at the end of the day, and just get their money and bugger off." But yeah, I know the process for us is it's introduced the whole. I mean, Costa, you came in today, and I left the suitcase with the broadcast stuff in it.
Well, I parked quite far away. And I waited for you to get off your phone because I could see you walking in the car park on your phone with your mask on, walking around. And I thought, I'll wait till he finishes. I'm like, yeah, look, I'm outside. I need you to put put the briefcase halfway down the street. Go from here, thank you. Yeah.
So what about how's your operation panned out now over the last couple of weeks? Because you're mobile, so yeah.
Correct. So look, we became sort of contactless sort of almost beginning of the year when the first COVID stuff started. So, a lot of our customers were leaving keys outside. We'd grab the keys outside, do our job, put the keys, sanitize the car, sanitize the keys, put it back in a sandwich bag, leave them somewhere for them, pay over the phone. So we started that quite early on in the piece. With the recent restrictions, we initially, around a week or 2 ago, we did make the decision. And look, I'm in a bit of a unique situation, I'm aware. So I have made the decision to, I'm going to cancel my jobs for the next 2 weeks. This was a couple of weeks ago, so I pushed them away they should have been coming. We're about 3-4 weeks behind booking schedule. So it would have been sort of in a week or two's time, the jobs would have happened. So we started sort of pushing them away. And just finishing off a couple of jobs that had to be done, things like had a couple of jobs that we had like brake repairs on and stuff that were booked in from previous services. They're like sort of, you've got 2 weeks before you do the brakes. So we went and did them around 2 weeks ago, but I made the decision for the next 2 weeks, at least to the 30th, we just closed. We've called all our customers. Again, bit of a unique situation. It was mostly service work, and we were able to do that. So we've sort of just pushed them off to the 30th and to reassess on the 30th whether we're going to be able to get back to them and when that's going to be. Again, I understand if I was in a workshop situation, it's very different. I don't have to pay for wages while I'm closing. I think it's very important for the guys in workshops anyways to try everything to keep their staff happy. But I think Mike's very correct with, the staff, I think, do have to be a bit understanding of the stresses.
Yeah.
Like just thinking about having, I know you've got a fair few guys, Pete, and so does Mike, having all those wages to be concerned about. It's a stress because what you want to do is, like Mike was touching on, we don't know how long this is going to go for, and all we can really do is sort of hope for the best and prepare for the worst, right? So I know that after speaking to you, Pete, I think a few times, and also my priority is making sure that staff's income is not impacted. We want to make sure that even if we go a bit without, we all want to make sure that our staff are still not impacted. I'm very aware, and that's how a lot of the shops are running it, right? So I think Mike is right to mention, staff maybe check your boss, see how he's on you, and say, look, I've got a couple of shops where their staffs actually put their heads. That's excellent. That is.
I'm glad you're hosting Costa and recording that, because you just went all funny. You just went all COVID.
What happened? Oh, the volume stopped. All right. So what I was saying. Okay, so what I was saying was that I spoke to a couple of shops during the week where their staff will actually put in their hand up to take holidays, leave, because they see, the work's thinning out. You know what? I'll take a holiday.
Yeah.
The kids are at home. I'll take a week off with them. I think that's a good move from staff. That's excellent. I think that's awesome team that they have there if they're doing that. So
I think on a positive note, I was going to say, I think on a positive note, on the other side of this, we need our staff, and I think that was we discussed that.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
We discussed that last year. That on the other side, the good news is on the other side of this work just banks up, and it just rolls up.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm trying to get at. Like, I know once this is done, I'm going to have about 12 weeks of work to catch up on by the time I'm caught up. Right, because you put off this for 2, and you got to remember that's going to be compounding on top of the work that you would have had already, anyways, right? So we're going to have an open of floodgates, So I think that trying to make sure
BG,
so much. And look, I will commend because even with Jeff Rice, he actually came and brought that little bit of stock that I do buy for me during the week and dropped it off. The way he did it was excellent. He left it in a place I could find it. Normally, whenever I'd see Jeff, it'd be hugs and smiles and let's have a coffee, let's have something to eat. And I'd always buy him lunch because that's
because that's what you do with Jeff.
Yeah.
And then you tell us that you've had lunch with Jeff, and Pete and I get all worried and jealous and think, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Take plenty of photos and do all that sort of stuff. But this time around, it's a different game. It's different Jeff.
Make us feel like we missed out on the world's best thing.
Yeah, that's right. Because you do. You miss out. Jeff was.
Monday, I was meant to be in going to see Mike, and I enjoyed my trip to Mike's, and then straight after Mike, I go and see Peter at Robert Street, and I kind of missed that interaction as well. So it's like the world's smallest violin here, but
but
I miss it.
But you know what? But Jeff, it sucked. Even though I could see you from like 10 meters away, you had your mask on, you waved goodbye and lifted and walked. It sucked, So it is. It is.
Did you feel violated?
I didn't feel violated. It wasn't normal.
Right. Well, anyway, look on the positive side of it, I think we have some really unique, differing. I mean, Pete, you and I are pretty much the same. I think, Jeff, your supplier perspective is really interesting to see. I mean, I've had some random texts from COVID safe. I don't know. One was called a few weird companies. Because I've had a few reps coming around the last couple of weeks, and I've wondered why they've been coming around. Because I really think
they don't need to.
Technically, I don't need to be seeing you. This is 2 weeks ago. I don't need to be seeing you. I really don't. You shouldn't be at my shop. You shouldn't be at the shop. I don't think you should be here. We could do all of this over the phone. And to be honest, I'm carrying stock levels that I can quite easily run down, right? Especially knowing that I need finances to pay staff. I'm going to run. When you talk about fiscal decisions as an employer, some of them are that we're going to run our stock levels as low as we possibly can because we don't need those stock levels, right? We have, and this segues off into suppliers. We start to go, I don't need to be holding this level of stock. We can capitalize that money, and we can use that stock capitalization and convert that into cash and help cover staff wages in times of, and this is where stock levels can come. It's like it's banking, right? We convert that stock into cash, or not cash, but into funds, and that funds will pay wages. So sometimes people will ask me and they'll go, why do you carry so much stock? It's like, well, it gets us through the day. Times like this is a very good example of how that stock is banking. It's banking stock, right? So it means that we have the ability to cover.
I'm just writing this down for when we're in the clear.
Well, you should know, because there's half a dozen boxes of BG up there that I'm very slowly going through. But but like these are the reality of that is across the board. Like even running oil levels low, running some of our filter levels low, wiper levels low. I mean, they're all things that are readily available from suppliers and quite easy supply. And a lot of shops don't have a lot of stock at all, right? Which makes you go, well, in a time like this, you've got nothing to sell. You've got to rely on buying it to sell it. And if you're relying, I think my dad said to me years ago, you buy two and sell one for the price you've sold two and still make a profit. And you got one on the shelf for next year. We're talking about oil filters. It was, this is Costa, this would be your dad's mentality and my dad's mentality back
100%.
in the day. It's not,
100%.
this is how they made their business training. Wasn't formal business
Sell
training.
1 by 3. Sell 1 by 3.
It was sell one and buy. Yeah, it was sell 1 by 3. Sell, but at the price of 3, still make a profit. Right, so you made less margin. You made less margin. That hence why we ended up with so much shit to chuck out when we rebuilt the workshop. But like all these filters you're never going to use again. But as simple Greek and Italian economics, they were pretty much they stocked your shop up, and you had something you could sell. And when you had something, like I love selling, and
you are right, because I remember before I looked deep into how I kept my stock available. If I had a big month, I was buying everything fully stocked into the max I could on that busy month. After I was done that month, if I had a really good month, I'm restocking as max capacity, right? Subconsciously, that's just how I used to do it before I started worrying about stock levels. That's just how I was taught.
But typically back in that day, we weren't doing accurate stock takes anyway. So you'd carry that, and that would come off your profit. It would come off your profit, so you didn't pay as much tax. I mean, I'm going back. This is like, and now when you do an accurate stock take, if you're buying more stock, it just means it goes into your profit at the end of the year anyway, and you which is what we're doing. So you sort of go, well, is it really winning? I don't know. You're holding on to a shelf. But for those guys that are sole traders on their own and don't want to actually have any formal, as a general rule of thumb. Some of the early lessons that I learned was remember to charge. I mean, I've had 2 of them tonight, so I just want to highlight them. And they come up randomly, Pete, from my business. Pete's the business coach, so speak to him about this sort of stuff. But the 2 things I really remember that my dad's saying to me is remember to charge for. You're telling everyone everything 3 bloody times, and the other one is look, if you buy 3 filters, charge them for 1, and make sure you're making a profit and covering the cost of the other 2, or the other 1, really. I mean, you can't really cover the cost of 2 in the profit, but make sure you double it and a bit more.
Might be able to if you're in Russell Lee.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Sorry, couldn't let you be all philosophical. I had to throw something in there.
You just got to be careful where you send this podcast. But I remember, you buy 2 filters and you basically we're making enough money on that. So I just remember those sorts of things, and they were things that they were the core business rules that I think that helped me. I'm not formally business trained as Pete does and those sorts of things. I just, like you and I, Costa, have said before, we sort of winged it and it worked.
Look, just remember, Mike, it's just all about pumping oil.
It is all about pumping oil.
Yeah, thank you so much for that award, whichever one of you 3 did it, because I know it's one of you 3, because that's as far as I got with that girl. All she said is it's one of those 3 names. So she said they specifically asked not to be named. I know I may have a closer clue. So yeah, he may know who he is. Well, I know it's one of you 3. I know it wasn't anyone else. So
that's
apparently I don't pay my staff enough to prank me with that sort of funding.
It looked like decent quality plaque. It looked like
listen, I owe someone a dinner at Aria, whoever did that. So maybe they should own up, and I'll take them and
go on.
Them and their wife to Aria with Lee and I. I think that's worth an Aria. That's an Aria quality meal.
He's not married though.
Oh, isn't he?
There's only one. There's only one here that is, so I think he's pointing the
There's
finger
only
at
the
you,
two.
mate.
We're the only two that are married.
Yeah.
That's one of those.
See, Jeff and I are safe. Jeff and I are safe.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So, guys, look, I mean, the COVID talk. I mean, we obviously had to have it. Really important that everyone out there understands that everyone's, in the same storm. I heard a saying. It said, "We're not all in the same boat, but we're in the same storm." So, you can sort of make your own outcomes as well. So, we're really using this time to think about what measures we need to take to ramp out of this. And you said, Costa, keeping staff is obviously one of them. So the last thing you want to do is get rid of staff, because when it becomes busy again, you're going to need the staff. Techs are hard enough to find as it is. So we're starting to think of measures that we need to take. So, and look, I mean, my gut feel is it's not going to be next week. I think this is going to run out for a while, but we need to start putting measures in place as to what we're going to do when we ramp out of this, because it's going to ramp out hard. So I think it's a good discussion that we've had.
I'm looking to hire. Anyone want a job? Come and contact me. I know, I'm serious. I'm deadly serious. On the other side of this,
yep.
As soon as we start to come out the other side of this, we need more techs, because we're going to get smashed between the end of this and Christmas. It's going to be busier than you've ever known it. I kid you not. If the one thing that might come out of this might be that all the states finally get on the same page and we can actually have holidays again. I mean, the vaccination thing is anti-vaxxers or whatever you want to call it. I mean, people have been discouraged from getting the vaccination. Who here has had their vax? Who's old enough?
I'm booked in. I'm 2 months away though.
Yeah, I'm 2 weeks away. I've been booked in for a while.
Well, you'll be having the AZ anyway, won't you, Mike?
No, I'm having Pfizer, mate. I'm not AZ. Actually, to be honest, I contemplated. I have seriously contemplated AstraZeneca, because some of my staff have. Cody's a queue jumper. He's had his Pfizer already. I honestly just went, well, it's you might as well have something, because something's got to be better than nothing, because we are front line. Like you're dealing with people, and I mean, I actually feel better this week than I did last week. Feel safer having the barrier.
Sounded on the phone, Mike.
No, I'm not worried about my health. I'm not worried about my physical health and COVID. That's not associated with this. I'm worried about the fiscal health of the business, and the fiscal health of the business impacts your personal life, your family life. And I have an extended family. I have 3 other children that I work with next door. I look at them like family. I'm call me a wog, whatever you want. They are family, and they get paid before I get paid, and before Lee and I get paid. And they are key to having a business, and they are the most important thing to me. And I get emotional thinking about it, because the last thing I want to do is put them in a situation where they can't afford to pay rent or pay their mortgage. Right? It's the absolute last thing. And that I will pay myself last. They get paid first, because without them on the other side of this, I don't have a business. So, and I hope that they can see that, and I hope they know that, and I hope if they're listening to this, I don't mind them knowing that. But that's 100%. We told them that last year, and probably at the moment we need to have that conversation yet again. There's less. What I feel this time around is there's less support from the government, and I don't think the government's got the money to support us. I really don't. I think ScoMo summed it up the other day, and he said, "Listen," he said, "I can't afford to." He can't afford to replace all the money that we make or we bring in next door. So he hasn't got. He can't do that. He can only bring in some of it, and all they're offering at the moment is 40%, and 60% is a big chunk to make up. That's all that's worrying to me, is to how do we make up that 60%? And like you said, Pete, if the work's not there, the work's not there. What do we do? Like it's real. I mean, don't get me wrong, anyone that's listening to this that's in building or in a cafe or in other industries, I mean, everyone's suffering at the moment. We're not alone. And I'm not crying in any way. It's just it's on my mind. It's there. I wake up and I'm thinking about it. I go to sleep and I'm thinking about it. I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about it. It's just it's
stressing you out. It's stressing you out.
Well, you know, it's there. It's not. I'm not going to say it's stressing me out because it's not.
The reality of it.
It's that it is the reality, and that's the reality of owning a business, and that's what it's about, you know, boys. I mean, you guys, you know, like it's all you've all. Jeff, you had a business in the UK. Costa, you had your business before you sold it and became a millionaire. Pete, you and I got it.
We're still stressed, you know.
Like yourself included, from what I'm seeing in the areas in Sydney that I deal with, so I can't talk for areas that I don't deal with, but you know, the automotive trade seem to be doing a great job with COVID safe, looking after the staff, you know, so absolute credit to yourself and to those guys all doing the same thing as well. You know, it is difficult, so well done. Same to you, Pete. Sorry, Pete. I need to give you some love as well. Costa, sorry, Costa, you're not getting any love.
Oh no, that was. I mean, look, yeah, definitely a discussion that we had to have. But I think we're somber enough. You know, we're going to ramp out. We're going to ramp out of this, and we're going to ramp out of it hard, guys. So be prepared. So
my new boat's going to be called COVID Recovery.
Yeah, but you got to remember one of the
it will absolutely, it will just rock it.
Yeah, and how we're going to get out of this is obviously with the great support of our suppliers. As we segue next topic, I know often because I can see Mike's frozen. I froze there, didn't I? Yep, I turned into a robot. I could tell because Mike got stuck drinking his beer. So what I was saying was, you know, and at the end of this, you know, sort of hold our hand into sort of the post-COVID world, we're going to need the help of our awesome suppliers, you know, which is slowly going to segue us into our next subject, okay, which is our suppliers. You know, why are we deciding to go with certain suppliers? I mean, it's a bit of a trend with a lot of workshops. They generally have one supplier they stick to primarily. You know, they don't always share the love. There's always generally one dominant supplier in your workshop. I know it was with mine. It sort of still is to this point today as well. So I have a few questions for us all, realistically. One of which is, you know, is it always price driven? Is that what we're really concerned about? Do we just want a certain product for the certain price? Is that what drives us? Or is it potentially something a bit more, you know, as in like value? Or we getting good service from these guys? Is that what we're looking for?
I think you would need to, I think value is the term that needs to be highlighted there, because value, you know, it's not particularly on a price point, and it's not particularly because I don't know, because you like the colour of the boxes that they come in. You know, it can be the relationship that you have with a certain member there. I think value is the key, in my opinion. You know, we don't always go to the cheapest part because we know we don't want to be changing that brake light switch again on that Golf in 3 weeks' time. You know, we want quality. And you know, myself, I'd rather pay a bit more, have a good working relationship with company A, B, or C, and move that way. You know, and I'm a loyal beast as well. I want to then harness that, you know, deal with that one person, and that's something that I learned many years ago. I used to, with parts companies, I used to deal with one person, and I've got one person at that particular company, and I had the right man for the job. If I was buying Japanese car parts, I was speaking to person, you know, Tommy. If I was buying Volkswagen parts, I was dealing with Johnny. You know, so yeah. I always maintain that, and I'm a big fan. I would hate to have to ring you know, just some random telephone number and you get whoever answers the phone. You need to have that rapport and that relationship with someone.
Yeah. You said a really interesting point there, Jeff, that we'd rather buy a better quality part, and you'd rather pay a bit more. I mean, I think a lot of guys and a lot of other workshops and people that I've spoken to on our garage network stuff seem to miss a lot of them when I'm talking about buying parts and or stock, or why do you sell Ryco, or why do you sell this, or why do you sell that. The reality at the end of the day is we're not actually paying for it. And part of this came out of some of the stuff that we did in a Ryco. Ryco was a great example of that. Why would you be paying more for a filter? Costa, you were there when we were with Ryco in a presentation. And at the end of the day, it's not, why is the mechanic making a decision for a customer to install a cheaper or a lesser quality part? Whereas you know, and I think that there's too much. There's a fair bit of that we're thinking that price is. A lot of techs think price. It's more driven by price, but I don't think it really should be. But you know, that's tech driven, but supplier wise, yeah, I think it's about getting the best quality and availability.
Availability is a massive thing. Yeah. I mean, your shop, Mike, runs very similar to mine. Space is a massive issue. So for us choosing a supplier, now look, we have a series of suppliers, but a lot of the time, and I'd probably say most of the time, I'd probably say nearly all of the time, it's not price driven, it's service and value. So we've built relationships with these suppliers over the years that they go out of their way for us. And I know that I can get it within a certain time frame. So if I'm ordering parts at, let's say I make a phone call at 4:30 in the afternoon and say, John, mate, I need these parts, he'll run them to me because I've built that relationship with him. Or he'll say, Pete, I can't get them to you this afternoon, but what I'll do is I'll send them home with one of the boys, and him on the way through, he'll drop them in first thing in the morning. So it's not necessarily price. Stock levels for us is one. We want to get the cars off the hoist. So I can't really afford to have cars sitting on the hoists. So if I'm ordering parts and I'm waiting all day to save 15 or 20 bucks, I'd rather pay that extra money and get the cars off the hoist and get other cars on the hoist. I mean, your shop's in an inner city location as well, Mike. So you know, I mean, getting them in and out's important.
I think a lot of that comes down to the store manager, and I'm going to be really not mentioning brands, but I've had some fantastic managers at different stores over the years who you could order the parts off, and when those managers are in those stores, you can just use one store. Because they just go, yep, we know Mike works to clear his workshop every day. We know he needs these parts by lunchtime. We can sit there and triage the cars in the morning. By 10 o'clock, all our parts orders are in, and they just go off and do their job. They only know to ring you if there's an issue. And it's very, very difficult to find that style, a manager who has that level of care for you as a client. But those managers recognize your spendability if you give them that amount of work. And I've had that a couple of times with one supplier. We've gotten so big now, and their supply levels in our triage at the moment, my boys, we're using all of the suppliers. We're using all of the parts suppliers in Sydney, whether it's from Genuine all the way through all of the top 3 or 4 aftermarket parts suppliers. We are checking their stock levels and looking at what we can get as fast as we possibly can, because we need to do those. We need to turn those cars over on those hoists, not for our own ability to have our own efficiencies. You know, like we triage the car, order what we need to order. And that's ordered and either returned if the customer decides not to go ahead with it. So we have supply boxes, return boxes, and they need to be okay with that. And we are sharing the love. I think at the beginning of our Friday Night Lives last year and talking, I would have advocated going to, and this, look, it can work if you've got a very good manager in that store. It can be really good to put all your eggs in one basket. But they need to understand how you run your business. And there's a couple of really good store managers out there that get moved around a little bit, who are very good at doing that in all three of the top aftermarket part suppliers in Australia, and they are very good at recognizing that, and they will work with you. And once you do that, you can actually show them your total spend, and then you can get what I would call negotiating power for things like rebates and those sorts of things. So I've reversed. If you asked me 12 months ago what was I doing, we had all our eggs in one basket. What are we doing now? We're shopping from multiple suppliers. But yes, totally. It's about things will probably change again in 12 months' time, because I'm back to one of those really good managers who I can rely on and who is willing to help. And with one of those suppliers who I will and I trust him, and he is fantastic and very good at what he does. And one of those was exactly that same example. I'll never forget it. And it's one of those things that happens where it's 4 o'clock, it's a Friday afternoon, and I needed a tool. And the tool was, I remember it to this day, it was 7 years ago. It was a Ryco fuel filter removal tool. And one of the reps had come around and shown it to me. And I went, oh yeah, I'll get one of those later. And I needed it on a Friday afternoon, putting a fuel filter in a Corolla. And I rang that store, and they said, I don't have any, but I sold it to a guy last week. I sold it to a guy earlier in the week, and let me ring him. I'll see if I can grab that one off him and give him another one on Monday. And they went and picked that up and delivered that to me. It did the job, fixed it up, and I went, I'm never going to forget that, ever. And I never did. And I went, that was the sort of service that was going over and above for them to ring another mechanic and say, listen, hey, that tool we sold you, we really need it. Can I have it back so I can give it to someone else? We don't care if you've opened it. It's a bit of metal in a box. But can we have that back, and we'll supply you with another one? Credit to that mechanic for actually being forward thinking enough to actually want to help everyone else in the trade. Yep. Like there's a lot of other mechanics that would have gone, nah, stuff him, he can go get stuffed. You know what I mean? So, but more credit to them to go and send a driver to pick that up, to deliver that to me, and get me out of a pickle. And I will never forget that. And unfortunately those managers have moved on and moved around Australia, but they're still with that company, and I'll never forget that.
So you're essentially saying that service and value will trump price in most occasions.
What I'm actually going to say to you is price. I don't care about price. I don't pay for it. I'm not paying for it. The customer is. And what's the customer want? They want their car back. So the reality is I then have to juggle. We have to juggle. 9 times out of 10, the car's already with us. It's not going anywhere else. It's going to get fixed with us. If they're either going to approve the job or not approve the job, it doesn't really matter. The fact is they want their car back. So I'm going to quote whatever I can get to get the car back on the road quickly. So they then have to make a decision. If you're $10 dearer than the shop down the road that might be able to do the job next week, that's not really going to, they're not going to go for $10. They might go for $500, but they're not going to go for $10. So
because the customer still wants value as well.
Yes, look, they do want, but I don't want to be buying something that and that there are specific brands and I have to admit there was a time where I've had a lot of problems with specific brands. So the reality of that is that generally on my when you start to spread the love, what I would actually advise guys to do is do you spend with them? Do you spend with them? Do you spend with them? Give them all the love for a month, and then they all go, Jesus, he's a big spender. And then they all go, how do we? And then you go, and the rep comes around and says, how do we get you back? you did a really good month last month with us. What happened? And
Well,
you go, I gave you most of my work. And they're like, oh, how do we get that back? Well, I need a little bit better price. You know, why'd you leave? Well, your service isn't that good. Your deliveries are a bit slow. You know, oh, well, what about we put another driver on, or what about we do this, or those sorts of things. And that's generally you've got to make them work for their money. Remember, you are their customer, and a few of them, in my experience, recently have forgotten that I am their customer. So I am their customer, and like our customers, we expect value. We expect good customer service and value. And I think that a few of those suppliers take a lot of things for granted. But the reality of that is at the end of the day, I'm not buying that item. It's getting sold through me at a margin or at a whatever, but I'm not the end consumer. I'm not the person who's paying for it at the end of the day. I'm going to try to pick the one that's going to, if we look at, we sell a lot of parts at retail. So if I sell a part at retail and it's available out of 3 different suppliers and one of them has a greater margin, I will sometimes look at that with a little bit of suspicion to go, why is that one so cheap? Are we comparing apples with apples or apples with grapes? And sometimes I'll go, oh, geez, yeah, okay, that's not a particularly good brand. I don't know whether I want to fit that brand. I think I'd rather go with the premium version, or alternatively, remember, sometimes these premium versions and these other ones, and we had a water pump that started to leak the other day from one of our suppliers, which I was surprised had 24 months warranty.
Yeah, right. Which
made a labour claim really, really easy. I thought, oh, geez, it's 13 months. I've got to have this argument. What am I going to do? And then when I rang and he said, oh, no, that's a premium pump and that's got 24 months warranty. And I went, nice. Oh, fantastic.
There you go. So quality, value. I want to know, Costa, why you use your supplier. And I know who you use because I've used them a number of times. And I'll probably know why you use them, but I want to hear it from you. And it's the relationships that you build, I'm assuming, with these people over the time.
100%. It's as I think Jeff started off by saying that. So when I was at the site in Mascot, so one, I always focused on speed of delivery. That was one of my things. I didn't care about $5 on a filter or stuff that really doesn't make a difference. I was more about, I think, like you were saying earlier, getting these cars out. If I somehow have had a busy day and forgot to restock the day before morning comes around, I want to make sure that filter comes to me as quick as possible. So that was one of the little struggles that we had initially with picking the right supplier for our workshop. After that, we built a relationship, and like you guys said, they go above and beyond sometimes. Like, this certain part is only 30 kilometers away, but you know what? You'll get it before the end of the day. And they're true to their word. I value that. That's the value for me. And I've never tried to say I'm the cheapest mechanical repair. Well, no, I think I'm very good value. I don't think I'm cheap. But I think for what you're paying, you get pretty good value, right? That's sort of how I try to base my decisions on buying parts as well. So for $2-3 difference on a filter, I really important that the guys that are getting it to me faster and the guys that are supplying me the knowledge as well. Sometimes if I make a call, did I just freeze again? Did I just freeze again, or am I still going? Did I turn into a robot?
Yeah, you froze. Yeah.
All right. So what I was saying was, so I'm not going to sit there concerned about, $2-3 on the filter. I'm more concerned about, getting my part on time, getting what I'm expecting, even the knowledge of the part interpreter sometimes, I'm asking them a question, having an answer for you. That was always a big thing for me as well. Now, even from there, moving to mobile, that relationship is now carried over.
Yeah.
And I think I've frozen. Do I keep freezing?
No, you drop out a bit, in and out a bit every now and again, but you're okay. Keep going. You're right.
All right, cool. Sorry, because everyone freezes, and I think I'm freezing. So I built a relationship with that certain person. Actually, not even many people, just that one individual person in that business. Because I know that if I ever get into an issue or a problem, or I need something, even I've made a mistake, maybe I've ordered the wrong part, I can call that individual, and I know he's going to try his best to fix the problem. Right? It doesn't fall on deaf ears of, some suppliers will be like, well, too bad, it's 3 o'clock. The parts leave here at 2:45. You've missed it by 10 minutes. I'm not going to get that response. That's how I sort of started to decide who I use. And even now as mobile, I got a part supplier literally up the road from my place who stocks everything that this certain shop stocks as well. But I drive 15 Ks to go pick up from that specific store. And to be fair, the one down the road from me is a bit cheaper as well. I still drive 15 kilometres to pick up from that specific store due to that relationship.
My advice there is probably just to make that other supplier aware that they might be a little bit cheaper. But I don't know. I've now sharing.
Look,
I'm sharing.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I still like to price check, just to make sure, because I know that even when I went from quite high volume in the workshop to quite lower volume now as mobile, I saw my price change instantly. Yeah. But you know what? A phone call fixed it. Yeah. Didn't ask for much. I said, look, I've realised that.
I haven't told Jeff yet I'm starting to sell wins, I'm price checking him.
It's about time you sold it.
Well, you've got the price, but you've not got the value of our Max.
Well, I was going to say, that's exactly, you know what, look, not bashing on any other brands, but you're right. You mentioned value. You mentioned value, and that was a massive thing. Like, like for me, I'd rather buy a better product and pay that little bit more. The analogy I've used a few times is if we're going for a steak, and I said to you guys, why don't we go to Hurricanes for a steak? But the steak's $30. Not one of you guys is going to say, no, let's go to the pub for $10. You're going to say, mate, let's go to Hurricanes. It's good. I'm getting good value. It's good food. It's, and I think it boils down to, for me personally, I think it boils down to value.
Like, I'll give you an example. Like, if let's say Jeff tomorrow was to decide to sell different products or something else, and he would say to me, hey, try this. And I was like, my question would be, is it good? Because I trust his judgment. I don't believe he'll try and sell me shit. In saying that, I don't believe he would go work for a shit company anyways, but I don't expect him to tell me, it's not as good as what you're using. That's what I actually believe he would tell me that. So if he was to turn around and tell me, no, it's as good as what you're using, like I would actually follow my rep. I'll be honest with you. I would follow my rep because he's the guy that gets mad as shit. I know, Mike. I know. Like I would follow my rep for specific reasons. I know he's given me great level of service the whole time.
I've done the same thing when my rep for VW Audi parts, when he left and went to another dealer, I followed him.
100%, I would.
Of a company crying about
it's a relationship.
Yeah, this is in the UK, by the way, so nobody can sue me. It's about a relationship.
Never trust a bald man.
Well, you know what it is, Jeff? It's a relationship. It's a relationship, right? And those sort of relationships are hard to come across, I think, in general, with especially when someone's trying to sell you something. Normally, they just want to sell, not too concerned about much more than that. So I think it's hard to find those relationships.
Just jumping on to Pete's analogy with the steak. Now, let's say you've got this beautiful, Wagyu, whatever you want to call it, and you're in your favourite restaurant. You paid $35 because it's your birthday or something, Pete. Yep. And you don't get a drink. All the staff walk past you, they bump into your chair. That's shit service. That makes that beautiful steak crap. I'd rather feed it my dog.
Yeah.
You know, just because like, I do think there's a bit of an arrogance in some parts of the trade. You know, if you've got a good product, give it good support. Otherwise, the product's worth nothing.
Yeah.
You know, you can, if you've got the best item in the world for sale, it's 10% the product, 90% of the relationship and the service.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that.
And it's the exact same with you guys stood behind your counter. So telling your customer, this is why you need pads and rotors, or, you know, you booked in for a clutch, but you need a flywheel as well. You know, we've got to take people on a journey, and, you know, a nice one.
I think what he's saying is correct me if I'm wrong, is the value has to be across the board. You can't just be in one part of your business. It has to be, if you're, like you say, Costa, we're not the cheapest mechanic in Sydney, but we give what we do, and one of the things we'll say is we do what we say we do. And one of the funny thing that happened this week was a lady rang up and said, how much is a service? And I think I was saying it was X. And she said, oh God, that's gone up. Is this my car at Marrickville? And I said, no, it's 313 Automotive. And she said, I don't pay that. My car does this. I said, well, my car doesn't do what we do. So I said, our SEOs are working with Google, by the way, because obviously we're getting to the top of the hit list very quickly at the moment. But the funny thing with that is I got off the phone, but there's no skin off my back on it. We're not looking to grow a customer from 10 kilometers away. But the reality is, and I keep saying this to the boys, is the values all the way through, is we're doing everything we're saying we're doing on that invoice. If it's on that invoice, we did it, right? Yeah. And if and you need to, and I think one of the things that some of us struggle with when you've got staff is they need to understand that it's your name on the door and it's your head on the chopping block, and you're the one dealing with the customers. And they're I think Kyle said it to me a while ago. He said it in front of me to another staff member, which is they're Mike's customers. They're not your customers. To another staff member, they're Mike's customers. We are working on his customers' cars. And it's from a staffing perspective, you got to make sure you do everything that he would have done when he did a service on that car. And that's sort of those processes and procedures and things that we've entrusted into them, they need to be doing. And it's the checks and balances need to be there for some of that. So, but
when I know I finally made it in business was we had a referral customer come in and once tell us, well, I've heard you're a bit expensive, but that you're really good. I was like, I've made it. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want a referral customer to be thinking. Like, yeah, okay, he's a bit more expensive, but I still want to go there. That tells me that I'm not expensive. That tells me that they're getting a good service. They're getting good value.
You were a gigolo.
We don't talk about my past because this is going to be broadcast.
Did somebody say
world. Exactly. I had to work hard for that money. No.
No, but you're definitely right, Costa. Like, mate, you're definitely right about that. Like, it's important that if people know that you're a little bit more expensive, that you're offering the value and that they want to come to you anyway. Right. I'm as a compliment.
Oh, that's excellent.
100%. And I'm happy to go somewhere and pay that little bit more if I'm getting a good result,
Absolutely.
I didn't get, I got away with, I explained to the lady everything we do in the service. And at the end of that, she goes, you could tell she was confused because she goes, I don't normally do all that to my car. Is this my car?
Even I think we've spoken about this before. Like when people ask me for quotes for the basic service, like, what? No, I'll email it to you. I want you to see what we do, because sometimes when you're speaking to them, they don't get it all. When they see it on paper, because like you, we do what's on the paperwork, right? When they see, okay, these guys are doing a decent scope of work, like I think it relays a stronger message than just, oh, my oil service is X amount. Because then they compare it to oil services, which can vary drastically around Sydney alone. In the same suburb, it will drastically change.
well, there's an oil change and there's a service. And I think that's
correct.
the real, and I think what people are, what some of the franchises decide to offer as a service is not a service, it's an oil change. And I think even a fixed price, it's really, even from the dealers, it's a fixed price oil change, not a fixed price service. And we can quite easily, and I think that's I mean, obviously, like we can do those, and we have done those, and admittedly, like I'll put my hand up and say I've fitted customer supply parts when we've needed to, and I've had to explain to the staff that there are some times when we're not making enough money. I'll make that call and go, this guy's bought these pads and rotors, and he wants us to fit them to his car, and he's 100% aware of what we're doing, and 100% aware of I'm not providing you any warranty and etc., whatever I'm not providing him. But and I'll put my hand up and say I tried third-party booking platforms. They're all things that I've in business.
Try stuff, haven't you? I get that. You've got to
try stuff. I mean, you have moments. I call them moments of weakness, and times when you don't back yourself. You know, like we don't all walk into the room and go, "I'm an alpha male and I'm the best person in the room." You know, we don't all do. You don't beat your chest. I mean, there are times in my life where I've gone, yeah, man, I've made it. I've done really well, like you said, Costa. You know, there are other times where you go, far out, man. We're sailing, you know, we need some money.
We suck. Yeah.
Well, no, we've got payments coming out of our ass, and we've got, you know, like you're like, Jesus, we need some more money. And you know, how do we get more money? Well, the guy rings up and says, can you fit pads and rotors? Yeah, fine, we'll do whatever. Mate, whatever. You know, you want me to stand on one leg? I'll stand on one leg. And
just out of curiosity, Mike, did you notice that was more common when you were early on in business compared to now? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, probably. Yeah. Look, it was a few years ago. I tried workplace. Look, it was in a growth phase where you might be able to explain this better.
Trying stuff.
Well, no, because we're at a phase now where your fixed costs don't change. So adding another tech, it's okay. So look, it's sort of the pyramid of business. So when you're down here, you add another employee and your freaking costs go out, but your business might need to be there to cover them. So you start to go. You get close, like they get closer and closer and closer together, and then all of a sudden your fixed costs stay the same, and your profitability goes really, really high because you have more tech. So when you're at that wider stage at the bottom where you add another wage to the books, and you go, shit, man, we need more work. So your work's going up, and you go, yeah, we need to get another tech. So you get another tech, and then you sort of dip down again. And then that starts to build. At that point, I was at a point like that where I had wages to pay, and I went, crap, we need, you know, and we need work. And it's not nice when you get a tech. Like Kyle, no, he goes, what are you doing? We can't be fitting customer supply parts. You just got to say no. And I'm going, mate, and he understood it when I said it to him. It's either say no or I can't pay you. What do you want to do? Like, we need the money. Like, we've got to do this because it's quiet. So it's sort of, you sort of do this, and as you're going up, you get to a point where your fixed costs, and you get your staff's efficiencies going, and your profitability starts to go up, and then that enables you to pay your staff more. So yeah, I don't know how you explain that. Lee can probably explain that better than I can because she's done an economics degree. Pete, you can probably explain that better than me. I left school in year 10, so I'm just going to go, it's fat at the bottom. It gets better as you get to the top. And once you get a lot of staff, I could probably have one more staff member, and the sky's the limit, Costa. You know what my targets are, so we'll smash it.
Yeah, mate, I hear, Mike. I know exactly what you're talking about, and we experienced that when we were doing the second shop. So, you know, it's generally the growth phase which sucks cash out of your business. Yeah. But, you know, and our industry's evolved so quickly that, you know, your business, you know, you might be going through a growth phase and start to mature out. And as you start to mature out, the business actually, like you said, starts generating some good money because your fixed costs are, you know, remain the same. But, then you decide that you want to grow again, or you need to reinvest back in the business, and that sucks the cash, you know. So like it's that plateau, you know. So yeah, mate, definitely right about that.
Yeah, look, there's terminology for it. The Lee's looked at it and goes, well, because we start to look at the mass and go, what do we do if we put on another tech? How much more work can we do, or can the boys be more efficient and do a few more jobs? So do you know what I mean? So that's where you start to look at it and you go, well, if their efficiency gets better, we can grow in this way. And some ways they need to know about that, because if they grow, if they can do more work, I can pay them more. We don't need to employ another person. We can give them a pay rise. But yeah, sorry, Costa, I'd segued off that because I can't really answer that question, only because it was a very broad. We're in a growth phase, and when you're in a growth phase, it's just shit.
Yeah, no, I get you.
For want of a better word.
Yeah,
it's just shit. Yeah. It's like it sucks cash. And then
I understand. When you put the new stuff on and you're trying to build,
well, it's like a balloon. You sort of blow air into it, and then you have to take a breath, and a bit of air leaks out, and then you take another breath, and it gets bigger, and then you go, oh, this is mad, and then you go, oh no, this is crap. Oh, this is mad. It's like, it's a big. I told you, it's an animal. You just need to feed it. And once you get to a point where you just need to feed it work, if the guys are doing the job the way you would do it, and they're happy, and they're doing the job the way you would do it, and as long as you're keeping on top of them and cracking the whip on them for that, and having a bit of quality control, it's a great machine, you know. Like I think I enjoy that side of it, you know.
I think you're right though, because I suppose you'd call it the law of attraction, you know, like attracts like. So if you're early on in business, I was, you know, very much the same. So very, very early on in business, I just did whatever I needed to do to stay afloat, you know. And what I found was off the back of that, so I would do, you know, jobs that I probably now wouldn't do or wouldn't say yes to. I was doing them when I first started out because I just needed the cash flow. But then what I found was over a period of time, those jobs were just attracting the same of those jobs. So I couldn't.
That's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was just that law of attraction. Then you change it up, and all of a sudden you start saying no to people. And you start attracting better work, and guess what? Lo and behold, you start attracting more and more better work.
And those other ones seem to drop off, but
they drop off.
But you give credit where credit's due somehow, some way. And I think we've had this discussion when we started off. We weren't really for, and we were a little bit anti-booking, third-party booking platforms. But I think after talking, we had that conversation 6 months ago, Pete, where we went, if that's what you need to do, and that's what you feel you need to do to get started, I think that's what you need to do. You know, like that's your decision as a business maker. We are not.
Well, everyone's at a different.
Everyone's different.
Different, Mike.
Yeah.
You've got to make some mistakes as well. You know, you've got to make.
Everyone's on a different journey. You know, everyone's got at a different phase in their business career on a different journey. Like I said, when I first started out, you know, I did jobs that I probably wouldn't do now, but back then I did because I had to, because I needed to stay afloat. I was starting out. I was a one-man band, you know, like, and I needed the work. I just, you know, I got into business in 2012. I bought the first shop. You know, literally a handful of months later, my first daughter was born. You know, so I just had shit going on, you know, left, right, and center. I had no money. I was just really just trying to do what I could to stay afloat, you know, and it's just, you know, everyone's got a different journey in their business career. And, you know, like you said, my third-party booking platforms, mate, look, so be it, man. You've got to do what is in the best interest of
horses for courses
at that time. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you do. But yeah, it was early on for me.
Yeah.
It was back in, it was, you know.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Well, interesting. That was an interesting little segue topic, which, it was good.
It was a half an hour and a half chat, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think this platform sort of works, but I'll definitely do something about my internet connection, I think, because every now and
There you
then
go.
I decide to
I
freeze.
love how you guys blame mine. I've been pretty steady all night.
You've been excellent.
I've been ready for you to fail. I've been ready to jump on you like a tramp on Chip.
Secretly, yeah,
You
secretly.
just love IT, Mike. You like
But you know what? You know what I find amazing? How does his beer keep refilling?
I noticed that. Yeah.
Did you see that? Was it just me? I thought that I missed it when he froze, but out of nowhere, I saw a full beer. It was opened and everything, ready to go.
Okay, we have a thing in the at the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club down here. We have a 2-can cruise. Tonight was the 2-can cruise is when you get in the boat and you go out for 2 cans, but you don't always have 2 cans. But tonight was a 3 bottle.
Pretty open. Look at that. What a skill. That's a man with a plan. That is a man with a plan.
I came in ready for that. Now I may have to leave in a second because I have to empty the other end.
Yes, okay. I think on that note.
So on that note, we'll wrap it up. But for those that are watching, if they want to comment, if they like the new format, if there's anything they want to see or hear about, we'd definitely like to hear about it as well.
Yeah, if they'd like to join in on a live at some point. I mean, we're not. This looks like it's going to be. I hate to say it, but it might be the next Friday.
We do have a few plans going forward now that we're sort of learning this new little IT stuff. We are going to be loading. So it was meant to be a bit of a surprise, but we'll tell them anyways. Keep an eye out for our new podcast channel. We are going to be turning all our Friday Night Lives into podcasts. A few extra little bits and pieces will be going into the podcasts. Potential some one-on-ones with some people in the industry, some people out of the industry as well. I think this the positive side, which again we love to put a positive spin on things. The positive side of sort of adapting and doing all these changes with, because of COVID, right? So the cool thing about that is we are able to have a bit more reach as well. So keep an eye out. We'll obviously let everyone know. We're hoping over the next week or two to have podcasts all set up. Keep an eye out for our YouTube channel, which we're going to start getting a lot more content on there as well. But again, we'll let everyone know once the package is all done and sorted. But absolutely, any sort of topics, any sort of recommendations. Honestly, I've had great recommendations from people in the group as well. So feel free to post them in the group, in sort of the chat below. If not, and you want to tell it to us privately, like, hey, you're shit, you can do this better. I'm happy. We're happy to hear that as well. Honestly,
hey, your internet connection's really bad. And
I know,
robotic,
but honestly, the this is shit and this can be done better. Comments actually is pretty good because it gives us something to work on.
Yeah, look, we'll take all feedback.
Take
Mike to shut up a bit more. That's fine. Whatever you want.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Right. So yeah, anything you guys want to see? Any changes or
you got any suggestions? Anything, whatever you want.
Even if there's certain people either within the industry or even out, any sort of other fields out there that you would think that us as technicians, as not only as business owners, but even just people fixing cars, right? How can we benefit? These people, let us know. Reach out to either one of us and we'll see if we can make that happen.
A really good thing at the moment with this sort of platform, what we like about it is our ability we're all at home, but we all have the ability to bring anyone else in. We can bring in someone from the AAA. We could talk to all sorts of different people. We can talk to.
They don't even have to be from the industry. But if it's something that can relate to us as one, whether it's been business growth, personal growth, or mechanical growth, either way, I think it's all valuable stuff for us, I believe. So
yeah.
Did I just turn into a robot?
No.
Yeah, I was like, oh God. Every time no one moves, I'll freak out. Like, I'm stuck again. Yeah. All right, cool.
I was trying to keep still.
I knew what you were trying to do.
Guys.
I knew what you were trying to do.
Good talking to you guys, yeah?
It was excellent. Yes.
Yeah,
all right, guys.
See you all.
Keep your chin up, guys. Around.
Everyone can say bye. So bye from me. Bye from Jeff. Bye from Pete.
Take care, guys.
Bye from Mike. Stay safe. If there's anyone down the road, give them a call. Make sure they're doing okay as well. Ask your employees. Ask your bosses. Reach out. Just make sure everyone's doing okay. I mean, it is hard.
off the back of that, you can call any of us anytime.
Absolutely.
Call me if you want
100%.
a workshop, whatever you want. If you want to have a chat, you got any problems, you want to have a talk to anyone
Guys,
about.
if you want to
We're all
have a
here for
vent,
each other, okay?
yeah, like it is a hard time, you know, working home with no play. It does get a bit hard, so feel free to reach out for any one of us, I guess. You know, so
Awesome, guys.
All right,
Good
guys.
one. Take care.
See you later. See you, boys.
Bye.
See you later.